Hey everybody, this is Munson Steed, and you are on Star Studio, where you have access to some of the best creatives in this universe. Of course, we're talking about some of the best in our world, the beautiful Black cinematography world. And I am so proud to have Felicia Pride. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Good to see you.
I've got to be nurtured by you. My whole voice is yours, even though, your brother's gonna banter with the love that you've given this community and really love.
Thank you.
Like, I tried not to watch it.
Why?
It was just, somebody was next to me saying, "Hey, let's watch this." You never want to watch this, and it was a love story. I'm like, it's happy, it's early, it's Saturday, and then I said, "Well, let me see who wrote it." I said Felicia Pride. Where were you when you got this first idea, and what were your first thoughts that crossed your mind for any person who's thinking of, writing a Black love story? Where were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was very much inspired by a few things. One, that we hadn't seen a romantic drama with Black people in quite a while. We had our Love and Basketball, we had Love Jones, but we hadn't seen one in quite some time. And it's one of my favorite genres, the romantic dramas. And I was also inspired by it too, wanting to show a range of Black people. And DC is like the perfect setting for that. I was coming of age as an artist in DC at the time. And, it's so rich with history and art and culture. It has its own music, its own sort of slang, a very, very Black city. And then also just a range of Black folks. And so wanting to see a story that is rooted in love, not just romantic love, but love of community, love of self, love of family, love of art, love of dreams, and have it be anchored by a range of Black people.
So I thought when I was watching it, I thought of Spike and how he has often had the whole elephant on screen. And it makes it hard to kind of digest all of this. You actually did a great job of putting the snackable conflicts and ideas in this piece. You had art. What really made you position that so that the Black community could see its issues of gentrification, could see issues of conflict, and people seeing your vision of yourself and your family? How did you get all that in and it still didn't feel like overwhelming, like I couldn't catch up with it?
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think that that is also wanting to show as realistic of like Black life as possible. We have our lives are very layered. It features joy, it features pain, it features love, it features lust, it features sex, it features family, it features community, but it also features, messiness. It features, our own sort of projection on others. It features fear. So just wanting to try to capture Black life, I think is what we were going for. This project has an incredible team behind it. Our director, Angel Christie Williams, incredible cast, incredible crew. And I think we were all really committed to showing the complexities of Black life.
So when you're writing this lead and you end up with Kofi, how did you feel about the casting of your dream against your words and what you ultimately saw as a final product?
It's so crazy because, Kofi was always on Angel and I's list. We actually remembered that we went to a screening of Kicks. Kofi was in a movie called Kicks, and we went to a screening in at USC years ago, to like see him in person. And this is way before I was on Queen Sugar, and just was still taken by his presence. I think as an artist, he has an incredible presence, and it just translates onto screen. And so to then years later, because it took a very long time for this film to get together, that he was actually cast and also so connected to the role, it was like a dream come true.
So, just as a writer, when you see individuals that you wanted saying your words, how did it make you feel?
It was amazing. I mean, I remember the first day on set that I got there and seeing all these trucks and all these people in a neighborhood in Baltimore showed up to like shoot something that was part of a collective imagination was wild to me. Like I just I think I'm still processing. I mean, I did have my ugly cry finally at the Baltimore screening, but to see what I think also I took from this is like, that writers are in a position to help create roles for Black people, right? Meaty roles for Black people. So to be able to help to create a role where Ayutha can, bring her all of herself to it, where Kofi can bring all of himself, and then the entire like Mac Wilds and Jada Schatz and all of these wonderful artists can bring themselves is amazing. And it also just continues to give layers of like the collaboration that is film.
But even the subject of art, like it took the idea of Basquiat, and all of a sudden said, here is how DC art moves, and all of a sudden you took in Kofi and added this huge actor with him. So now you see great actors and Michael Ealy having a conversation, putting a brother up on game. Like, don't sell yourself. Like, keep a little bit of yourself every time. Like, don't lose yourself, brother. Keep something, and you know you've got to be better. Was that dialogue that you've had with yourself? And where did you get that insight to say, don't sell all your assets, really hold on to something as an artist, and brother, you know you've got to be here?
That Yusef, which is the character that Michael Ealy plays, a mentor to Kofi, is the Kofi's character Isaiah is one of my favorite characters. One of my favorite characters I've ever written. And that piece about keeping your art came through research Angel and I were doing in terms of getting into the nitty gritty of being a fine artist, because on a certain layer, the journey of an artist, me and Angel really just related to, right? It's like, yes, he's a painter, but it's very hard for any kind of artist to date to like try to balance love and career and ambition and dreams. It's very hard to balance being, finally getting put on and then having to deal with establishments. It's very hard. So all those things felt very similar to whatever, specific artistry you're in. But when we got into the nitty gritty of like being a painter, that came out of research from that Angel and I did. But the idea of having an older mentor, I think, is important. And I've had mentors. Actually, my mentor, Alice Mayette, was the one who told me to take a chance and move to LA. When I was thinking about giving up living in DC, I was like, I might get a good government job, or I might try this one last time and move to LA. And it was my mentor who was like, try it. So I just think that mentorship in our community is important, and it happens often, and just wanting to capture that.
I love that aspect of brotherhood that you showed, but you also created this mom dialogue that is often missed or not seen, and things that conflict classism in Black community. Like I thought for you, it was probably the first time I hugged you in the movie. You weren't there, obviously, but it was like we really saw classism in our community at a dinner table taking place, and that's not in Love Jones at that level. It really was dramatic, and it was painful. You put so much pain in these moments. Did you intentionally write that, or did you feel it after you wrote it?
I realize that my work tends to talk a lot about class, because my work also tends to analyze and try to deconstruct the American dream, which I think is something that artists bump up against, right? Because it's hard to intermingle the two. I also have found that, personally in my family, the American dream has, can I curse on here?
Of course.
Okay, has fucked with us. So I find myself deconstructing that. And then I also found myself living in DC, being an artist, bumping up against people who, may have art hanging on their walls, but when you tell them you're artists, they have a different feeling. So I wanted to kind of tap into that, but also tap into parents who want the best, quote unquote, the best for their children, but project their fears onto their children, project the fears of the world onto their children, and have the quote unquote best intentions, but may not know how to go about actually executing those intentions. So just kind of wanted to play with that in a hopefully nuanced way. I think one of my favorite scenes is at the end. First of all, rest in peace to Suzanne Douglas, who was amazing and just such a gift to us and to the film and to the world. And one of my favorite scenes is with her and Yutha at the end, where she's kind of like, people are in your lives for a season, and she's able to give this motherly advice that's based on experience and vulnerability and love. And that's one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Yeah, R.I.P. She did a phenomenal job.
Amazing.
But the beauty of that is you gave her a gift to live forever, in what will become a black classic romantic drama. So if someone study and wants to study a conversation, you've now written those lines, and she presented those lines. So I thank you for that. And if you hadn't been a person, you could have picked anybody. You could have picked Felicia Rashad, but you picked her, and
Well,
it really.
that yeah, that goes to our director, Angel Christie Williams, and our casting director, Kim Coleman, who made that happen.
So in putting together, or at least feeling, because the word on the street is obviously that you suggested, if you're gonna take my film, I have the director in mind. Um, what did that feel like to make that demand and see it happen, and then be able to co-create your vision with someone like an Angel?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Angel and I met years before we took the film out to anybody. We met at a barbecue here in LA, and we just vibed off the fact she was from Baltimore, I'm from Baltimore, and she was like, she's a director, and I was like, what kind of stuff do you want to direct? And she said romantic drama, and I was like, I have a romantic drama, and I told her it's Love Jones meets Blue Valentine, and she got it in that instance. And I sent it to her. She read it immediately. And then I was like, I want you to direct it. And then we spent time, developing the script, and I was rewriting it to really further fit the vision that she wanted to direct. And it was a really, really wonderful, pure collaboration. And then we took the film out, and Macro, we pitched it. Macro was the first place that we officially pitched it. And they bought it.
So for those who haven't had what you've been given, and I love the fact that you express and share with our community. You pitched it. What happened in the room? You walked in the room, and how's that go for somebody who's dreaming or hopes to be and experience what you've had, where somebody actually buys a movie versus here's a speech?
Well, at this point, I had been working on the film 7 years prior to meeting Angel, right? So I partly moved to LA to get this film made. So going into the room, first of all, me and Angel prepped prior to that, like what we're gonna say and like what we're gonna do. And planned about her talk in terms of the vision, the visual vision. And I talked about story. They had already read the script, but talked deep further about story. She also reminded me that I came with like a full marketing plan and all these things. And the room was full. Like Macro, it was Charles King, it was all the heavy hitters, and then also down to interns. Like everybody was in that room. And it ended up being like an hour and a half, 2 hour conversation. And it went really, really well. And it was right after that Angel got the call from Charles King that he wanted to make the film. What I will say though is that I walked in the room, we were very excited, and I was much more green than I am now. I tend to walk into rooms with much more confidence and let go of expectations. There's no desperation anymore. Like, it's a gift if you want to make this film. If not, we'll find somebody who wants to. Like, that's the energy that I bring into rooms now. Then it was very much like, bright eyed and bushy tailed.
But bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, full of energy, you took a university that obviously now affects DC and affects the world. What did that feel like? Because now Howard is clear. If you can't say HU, and now you're lost. What did that feel like to kind of like create the lexicon now for? And it seems actually apropos, given our vice president is a Howard grad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm an honorary alumni. I would want to be an honorary alumni. Like I was going to Howard homecomings for years, every year. And then, you know, a lot of friends who are Bisons, very proud Bisons. And then I actually did work on Howard's campus for about 2 years. We had a federal contract to do storytelling and narrative work around HIV and AIDS on Howard's campus. And we had worked with Howard students directly, and I just love them. I love Howard alumni. I love Howard students. I wish I would have went there, to be honest. And you know, you can't really, it's hard to talk about DC without talking about Howard. So it just felt like it just had to go hand in hand, you know.
And then you smacked all this art in front of and gave some artists, found an artist and gave shine to an artist and put faces and pushed us to understand art more deeply. Um,
Yeah, that was definitely a lot from Angel and the production designer wanting to have, you know, commission art. They commissioned art from Gerald Lavelle, who was a young artist. I think he was out of Atlanta at that point. Also commissioned art from Ronald Jackson, who represented Yusef's work. So Gerald Lavelle represented Isaiah's work in the film, and then commissioned and worked with and found art from artists around the country. So that was, that sort of commitment, you know, helps to make the movie feel that much more authentic. So like, I just applaud them for that commitment and that effort to pull that off.
I love the fact that the dads actually and father son, the tension was there, but there was never disrespect. There was never disregard. How did you make that happen? Because it seemed like it was so easy that it could have blown up. And yet there was that silent, and yet they loved each other. They worked together. Obviously, they were communicating. You really wrote that in a way that allowed Black story to be told. How did you do that?
Yeah, I feel like I personally just, I don't think we need to have the disrespect in order to get the tension. You know what I mean? Like I just, between Black people, I don't think we need it. So I think that's just like from an intentional purpose, and hopefully that's what we were able to do. But I think that was the intent of like, we don't really need to show disrespect in order to show tension. Um,
I have to read this script because the other thing that I felt when I was watching the film is just the mom's touch of her son. Like she touched him without you writing a line. Like, I mean, obviously you wrote the line. You know,
Oh,
there's a
sometimes sometimes you don't write the line. Like the actors make incredible choices, and when you work with incredible actors, you see that they'll make choices that can further illuminate the material and the story because they are being that person. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I felt that in the touching. Like it really was amazing that she was a strong mom. She confirmed her son, she affirmed her son, and yet she didn't have to have a speech.
Mm.
She literally was kind of, I got you, and it really moved. You had Blair there, just striking dad. What was that like to work with him? Obviously, he delivered every line with a powerful punch.
That was amazing. And that was like a favor called in from our producer, Mel Jones, who had worked with him on Juanita, a movie Juanita with Alfre Woodard. And so he showed up just like a blessing and a gift, and just showed up and also was just so genuine and kind. And I remember him being like, well, what's your story? Talking to me about like the genesis of the project. And it was just amazing. And he just played that role so well. Like those scenes again are some of my favorite in the movie. So to have like, you know, this established OG artist supporting, you know, us artists coming up and taking the movie seriously. So many artists did that is just, it's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah, but for you as the writer and storyteller, and it felt like it could go again. Did it feel like it could go again under your pen?
You mean like a sequel or?
You got it.
It's funny because, this film was originally called Open Ended. So the ending was always meant to be open ended, but I never thought about a sequel. Now that it's released, audiences are talking about sequel, but I can't even wrap my head because it took me 10 years. I'm like, I'm tired. But um, I love the fact that people are like wanting more of these characters, wanting more of this story. So you never know. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I really glad you shared that. Changing. So for people who know, and obviously when I talked to the producer, she shared there was a whole lot more. You had to condense a lot. You didn't get to make it to the barbershop. You had stuff on the cutting room floor. What's it feel like? What should other writers know that's gonna happen to your work as you're trying to fund it, create it, and then get it out into the marketplace?
Whew. Well, first of all, features tends to be a director's medium. So that's one thing for writers to know and to be thinking about as they think about their involvement and their role in a project. Um, Two is that, there are typically people say there are three phases of making the movie: the writing, the production, the editing. And having to understand uh, that when, especially when you get into the editing part of things, you are creating from what you have. And there you're going to have to kill some darlings, you're going to have to lose some darlings, you're going to, and like this film, there was so much more with the friends, um which I love that couple. There's so much more with Stevie's cousin Cicely, played by Natari Naughton. So the couples and this cousin bring more of the funny. So there was just a lot that we had to let go of, because then you have to write to budget. Like you could be writing, in terms of in your head and what you see, but do you have the money for it? And to have a black-led production company put money where their mouth is huge, right? So you have to make that work. And so there's just a lot of like concessions and compromises, and then just letting go of like what you thought something was going to be and embracing what it is just par for the course, both for TV and film.
Right. So you put a wrap on it. You put an excellent team together. Which congratulations. I really am enjoying your producer. I find that she, and then the fact that she went to Howard. She
Yeah.
said that you had written a dream come true.
Mel is amazing. Mel, I just want to shout out Mel for a minute because I don't think that producers get enough credit for what they do. Mel has been ride or die for this project. And I'm not even sure, like, I don't know where we would be without her. So I'm just so grateful for Mel. She has been our everything, our producer, our cheerleader, our psychiatrist, mom, dad, like everything. And I appreciate her so, and she's a tremendous producer, but she's also a creator in her own right. She has a show that she co-created called Alert Park that's on BET Plus. She directs, so she's a force. She's a force.
Well, she talked about intimacy, and you put intimacy in a very classy way. She talked about intimacy coaching, but you made intimacy in some of the shots with the brother with his head next to the sister's head. It was just incredible the level of love that you brought in. It kind of reminded me of another one of your projects.
Well, that was all Angel and our DP Sean Peters in terms of like bringing those scenes to life. But I will say that for me, love, lust, sex, fucking, all of it is very important to the Black experience. And I want to see more of it on screen. So I put it in there, you know what I mean? To do that. Because I just think it's really, really important to see the various levels of how we connect. And so I was just also, just from jump, Angel got that, and Angel also feels the same way about bringing intimacy and sex and love in that way to the screen.
Black love in particular, you said really love. Why really love? Why did we end up there?
That was what we needed a new title because I think open-ended one, we wanted a new title for the project, but kind of gave away what it was. So really love, which I just remember we just had a list of titles and titles, and I think Angel came up with it, and it's from D'Angelo's song Really Love, which we both love, and it just worked. But for me, I realized that I write about Black love. And again, it's not just romantic love, it's love of self, it's platonic, it's communal, it's sexual, it's familial, it's all of those things. So trying to get the expansive love in this romantic drama as well.
Well, I want to thank you for hanging out with me at Star Studio and rolling out in this writer's room.
And thank you for this continued platform for artists and creatives. We appreciate you.
As much as I appreciate you, you're one of my favorites. I really love this. It made me feel closer than I ever have to a Black writer, and to see your success on this screen, it just made my heart move to know that I had talked to the person that was writing lines that were being said. So thank you
Thank
for the gift.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.